Okay, welcome everybody to our podcast of the Educational Insight Group on the Sparkle Project. My name is Eleanor van Gerven, and many years ago I started as a kindergarten teacher. Later I studied history and philosophy of education and educational sciences. In the late 80s and 90s I specialized in gifted education. I'm currently director of Slim Educatief, a private teacher education institute that offers post-service teacher education in gifted education. And I have the honor to be chairing today's session of the Educational Insight Group. We are an international group of researchers and we are all involved in teacher education, either in pre-service teacher education or in post-service projects for continuous professional learning. And today I brought 6 of my colleagues with me, I'd like to ask Robin to start and give a brief introduction on herself. Robin.
Thank you, Eleanor. So we really are all over the world, as you'll hear. I'm speaking today from San Francisco. My professional life is in talent development. I'm very interested in the roles that adults play in helping students develop to their full capacity. I am also a trustee of Bridges Academy, a school for twice exceptional students in Studio City.
I'm Annemieke. I'm speaking to you from the Netherlands, and I'm a teacher educator at Fontys University in the Department of Teacher Education and Educational Needs. From 2007 till 2009, I had a shared responsibility for the development and implementation of the first Dutch Master Educational Needs in Gifted Education at Fontys University. I'm currently responsible for the teacher education courses on gifted education.
Christine, would you be so kind to introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Eleanor. And hello to our group and everyone tuning in at this time. I'm Dr. Christine Dietz. I'm the Associate Director for the Mahoney Center at the University of Arkansas in Little Rock, Arkansas. The Mahoney Center is a full-service center. We are a research center. We provide programs for students and professional learning for adults. I specialize in creating curriculum and in teacher professional development. Thanks, everyone.
Hello, everybody. My name is Anouk Baks, and I'm from the Netherlands. I work as an associate professor at Fontys University of Applied Sciences, and there I also am a teacher educator. And I work as a professor of gifted education at Radboud University, also in the Netherlands. And in the last years, I initiated and developed educational research labs, kind of field labs, in which teachers, teacher educators, and scientists and their students collaborate on research projects in order to improve education for gifted learners in an evidence-informed way.
Directly from Puerto Rico. I am the director of the Only to Eat project, serving students, families, and professionals. And we also conduct research and serve as the Center for Internships and Field Experiences. I'm a professor at the University of Puerto Rico for 32 years in special education and curriculum. And prior to that, I also worked for about 10 years as a classroom teacher. I am very proud to belong to this group.
I'm Wendy Behrens, speaking to you today from Red Wing, Minnesota in the United States. I am the State Director of Gifted and Talented Education for the Minnesota Department of Education. And the work that I do is focused on equity in terms of providing and creating equitable systems of identification and systems of support for students. I work with educators, administrators, families, and policymakers. Thank you for inviting me today, Eleanor.
And thank you all for joining us. Robin, may I hand you the mic and ask you to introduce the Sparkle Project, please?
Yes, thank you, Eleanor. So all over the world, we find educators who are inspired by the children they teach. And when we ask them about what they do, their teaching profession, their eyes start sparkling. Well, that's the focus of our Sparkle Project. Why do some teachers see their job as bringing joy into their lives? And what about teachers whose sparkle has diminished or even for the moment disappeared? Now, being a teacher, we know, is truly a challenging profession because teachers are part of an interactive system and there's interplay between all the partners, the students, the co-workers, the parents, the support staff, administrators. It goes on. And that interplay affects all of them within that partnership. Now, in daily practice, teachers have very little time to reflect in action, but they do find time to reflect on action. And those that we have already worked with inform us that reflecting on their personal situation helps motivate them for the jobs at hand. But what about those of us here today, those of us who are undertaking the research? What makes our eyes sparkle in daily practice and what have we learned? In this vodcast, we're going to talk about personal sparkling moments.
Thank you, Robin. Wendy, I give you the honor for our first question. Why is the Sparkle Project, Wendy, so important for you? Why now? And why at a time when other researchers have focused all their efforts on addressing post-pandemic teaching loss and the social and emotional well-being of their students? So why is our research then so important?
Eleanor, I am so very glad you asked this question. We know that teacher motivation impacts school effectiveness and the quality of instruction in the classroom and learning outcomes. And at the State Department, we are, of course, very interested in that. While the broad consensus is that teacher self-efficacy, is important for student performance, we've yet to come to a really clear understanding of what makes teachers happy. What makes them sparkle? What makes them want to stay in the field? What makes them want to begin their work in the field? And one of the things that I'm hoping that our project will actually do is inform not only teacher recruitment, but teacher retention. We've come through some really, really difficult times in the world post-pandemic or actually during the pandemic, in which we lost a lot of teachers, whether they were working in gifted education or in science or in another area. We know that those jobs are lost and we're unlikely to have those teachers return. Gifted education has been and will continue to be a very important field, not only to prepare teachers for the future, but to prepare students for the future. And without this knowledge, I'm not certain that we will have what we need in order to, as I say, recruit and retain the talent we need. Gifted education can be an isolating career. We don't want it to be. We want to connect that enthusiasm and remind people what it is that makes them sparkle. Why did they go into the field of gifted education? And what makes them want to remain there?
Thank you, Wendy.
I'm going to ask Christine a question. Most professions have a time when their need to sparkle is absolutely imperative. Actors, for example, need to bring sparkle when they're in front of an audience, and lawyers sparkle during closing arguments. Pilots, we hope, sparkle during takeoff and landing. When do teachers typically feel the sparkle? And why is it important for them to realize when they're having a sparkle moment?
Oh my goodness, what a great question. So let's take the first part. When does it happen? Well, it's a reflective piece, isn't it, for everyone? And just take a moment to think about when in your day, in your classroom day, in the day that you interact with your students and your colleagues, when is it that brings you the joy, that sparkle? Is it when you first see your students? Is it when you see them leave the room? Is it when a light bulb in a child has finally turned on? Is it when you have a moment where you're connecting what you're seeing in the faces of your students to an experience that you've had, or where you connect deeply to the content? When is your sparkle moment? Now, why is it important? Well, when you're sparkling, that's when you are, in my opinion, truly connecting, truly alive. All your senses are working. Time disappears. And all people see around you is your light and your sparkle. And it's in your eyes. It's in a still moment. It's why you're there in that moment in the classroom with these children, with these colleagues. It's when everything comes together and has purpose and meaning. So you can think about, as you reflect on this, when does your sparkle moment happen? Is it in a moment of anticipation, like the last day of school or the first day of vacation or the day before Christmas, or the moment before you ask a really great question to your students that you know is going to spark their curiosity? Is it then, or is it an achievement, a sense of achievement, whether it's small or large? Or is it that sense of connection when you have that aha moment? So think about the ah in sparkle as an anticipation, achievement, or aha. Think about when it happens.
Thank you. Thank you, Christine.
Thank you. And that brings us to another sparkle question, because Anouk, you started out as a teacher yourself, and you moved from teaching pupils in primary schools to educating student teachers. Any sparkles there for you?
Well, thank you for this question, Eleanor. Indeed, when I was 22 years old, I was a primary school teacher myself, and I had a heterogeneous classroom with 34 students aged between 7 and 10 years old. So with quite different cognitive levels. And I was really committed to these children to help them learn, grow, and discover the world in a safe way. And with each of my students, I felt a real connection. And I always wanted the best for them. And I think all teachers want the best for their students. And when they were learning and growing, and they said from, yes, this is the moment, I get it. Then I saw their spark, and I felt myself sparkling as well. And those were the moments I really enjoyed. And well, when I was younger, I really wanted to change the world and a better education for all students. And I realized that I might make a difference for the students in my own classroom, but maybe that I might possibly reach more students when I could work with teacher students, as I do today. And within teacher education are many sparkles, especially when connections start to exist. and connections with the group, students and teachers, but also connections they make between content and skills and triggering questions from our lessons and the pupils, and the work with during pupils with the teachers, students in internships. And then that's when I see their eyes sparkle when connecting new content or insights to their own professional development and to the pupils in their classrooms. And these kinds of connections, all in the context of better education for all students, also the gifted ones, that's what makes me sparkle.
Thank you, Anouk.
And Annemieke, I'd like to dig a little deeper on what Anouk just said. So when your eyes sparkle as a teacher educator, how does that affect your student teachers, and what do you see in their responses?
And for this beautiful question. It makes me sparkle already. When I, as a teacher educator, sparkle, and I'm truly alive, as Christine mentioned before, then I radiate enthusiasm and passion in my classes about teaching gifted students. I see students go for it. At that moment, some kind of space exists for their enthusiasm and their passion. They dare thinking and talking from what they would like and what they need in their practice to make this happen. Then they are able to look at opportunities and they see the thresholds as something you can get over. Enthusiasm is contagious. You only need a spark to start a fire. And we say, and my spark can be the source of the fire of the group of master students. And that's what I love in my job. Students indicate in their evaluations that they see the combination of my expertise and my enthusiasm for the subject as a source of inspiration for their learning process. And that's the moment I think I've done my job in a way I like to do it. I have, with my spark, start a fire by them.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Thank you so much. And Anna, just to build a little more, what motivates you as a university professor, teacher, educator of pre-service teachers?
Thank you, Robin, for allowing me to talk about my sparkling moments in my work. When I see how future teachers exceed my expectations, when they are not satisfied with meeting the minimum requirements, they want to go over them. They look for creative ideas to demonstrate their learning. They do not allow me to follow a specific plan because they have questions, reflections, and ideas to contribute. This is what makes, after 30 years teaching university courses, I still feel the same emotion as at the beginning. I also feel satisfaction when they are already in service and continue to reflect, to give the best of them for their students. They constantly approach me to review difficult situations and see the positive alternatives for the well-being of their student. And I really love that. And those are some of my sparkling moments.
Thank you. It's wonderful to hear all about what makes you all sparkle and in all our different capacities. Robin, you have a completely different capacities as a teacher educator and being involved in gifted education than all of us. You are the trustee of a very innovative school for twice exceptional learners with so many different personalities at hand. How do you set the stage for sparkle on the days when things aren't going well professionally? Because I can imagine that those days happen.
And it is a challenge of monumental proportions. I want to thank Annemieke for using the word contagious, because it really is about setting a stage for that magic to happen. It's not certain that it always shows up. Most certainly it doesn't. But I think back to one of the findings in past research with female US Olympians is that they try harder, they push through, or persevere, they work longer, and they achieve at higher levels when they like what they're doing and they feel that they can be successful at it. At that intersection, that's where the magic, that's where the sparkle happens. And that's what drives the next level of working harder. Now, when we're facing days of frustration, and boy, have we hit a few of those in the past couple of years, it's helpful to really reflect on days of success, even those teeny tiny, like Christine mentioned, those teeny tiny successes can fuel you for the next, for getting out there. And we also, as Eleanor said, in a school that's of so many personalities, it's important to understand and remember that people find sparkle in different ways and in very, very different places. One more little note is that we had a little brief discussion before the recording was turned on. And if I heard right, it is that in setting the stage, it helps to have props. It helps to have little reminders. I'm wearing a very special scarf today that is my own secret sparkle. So think about those props that you collect along the way.
Thank you, Robin.
Now I can ask Eleanor a question. Eleanor, you're a teacher educator. What makes your eyes sparkle when you work with teachers?
Well, you know, I'm a teacher educator in a very specific field. I'm totally focused on gifted education. And one of the things that makes my eyes sparkle is at the beginning of the year, all our teachers come from all over the Netherlands. And they start to think that based on previous experiences, oh, I can do this course and I can do it with 2 fingers up in my nose. And at the end of the first day, I can see them almost in their mind screaming, going mad. Oh, this, I don't know if this is what I've signed up for. And they're feeling a little bit of anxious, and basically they're slight feeling of being nervous, and their question, am I able to do this? What is this going to ask from me? That makes me sparkle, because it creates the feeling that their students experience when they join a special project where they're firstly challenged for a long time, and they see their students going home with the same feeling. So at the end of the day, I address this specific moment as this is a golden moment. This is for the first time in a long time that you experience the same as all you as that you want your students to experience. And then during the year, I see them often referring to that first day, and they sometimes say, yeah, you were right. I am feeling this and I don't know if I like it. And then the next moment they say, yeah, we're liking it, we're enjoying it. And by the time it is March, each and every one of them tells me, I never want to change the way of education any longer, as in, this is the way how I want to be educated. And if I want to be educated in this way, I would like to teach my students in their way. And that's my ultimate sparkle. Annemieke, I may have used a lawnmower with my answer I just gave, and took out all the grass in front of you, and now we can't hear you because your mic is still out, but you may want to respond later on. But I'm going to shift over, because at the end of the master studies your students take, they take a criterion-based interview. And that is very interesting because they have to prove that they have to defend their master thesis, but in a way that you want them to be basically a tiny little spark and a tiny little sparkle themselves. Now, what during these interviews on Gifted Eds never fails to energize you as a teacher educator?
Oh, thank you. And okay, I'm used to the fact that you're giving a part of answers I wanted to give on my questions, but in this case, I have enough to tell you. My eyes sparkle the most when students let me witness their learning process and can describe their first thoughts about gifted education and what they think now about it, what their substantiated vision on giftedness and on educational needs of gifted students has become. How then this vision guides their actions, leading towards effective interventions that support gifted students and their ecology of students in their development. The icing on the cake, however, for me, is when students can reflect on how knowledge supports the substantiation and initiation of changes, which have created a snowball effect within the students' practice. Other colleagues also want to be able to do it and go along with the change, and so the whole team comes to better education for gifted students. Then I become happy and proud of what happens in practice for the target group of gifted students and their ecology. That's my sparkle. Thank
Eleanor,
you.
I think we want to go we can go even farther in this, on this path, because you communicate with your students as a teacher educator. You communicate about their successes in daily practice. How do those conversations contribute to ways that they experience sparkle in their professional contexts?
Thank you, Robin, for this question, because in your introduction, you said that teachers often hardly have any time to reflect in action, but they do have time to reflect on action. And basically, that is exactly what we're trying to do with those conversations. And we're trying to teach them small ways, just to take sometimes a minute. They can find themselves reflecting on what they're doing right now in their classrooms. And then by teaching them that and by reflecting on their daily practice, they are able not only to see everything they haven't done, but we focus on what they have done. What did you have achieved? What went well? The problem is not always there the entire day. So when is it not there? And if the problem is not there, what have you done in that situation? Did you prepare your lesson differently? Or did you communicate with your learners? Or are you having a laugh with them in a special way? Did you change the setting in their classroom? And have you given them the opportunity to connect with their peers? And in taking such conversations, when they're all reflecting, they start to feel that they are already very competent. And based on that competence, that they're able to build a very strong relationship with their tiny little learners in their classroom, because that relationship they have with their students, that'll feed them for everything they need to become the best teacher ever. So those communications contribute to the ability to reflect in action and on action, and to reflect on, hey, I am already a very competent teacher. Thank you. And Christine, when I talk with teachers, they tell me that there are so many factors that they experience that are beyond their control. For example, curriculum is often selected and approved, and even method of instructional deliveries are often influenced by professionals outside the classroom. How can teachers bring the sparkle to what has already been set or determined for them? And why is that important for student learning? Enlighten us, please.
Oh, wow. Building on the comments shared by this group, we're experiencing a theme, and that is the power of reflection. So let's begin from the point where teachers are the keeper of the spark. We have the spark inside us. So do your students. We all do. And it's incumbent upon us to perfect that pathway to our own spark so we can tap in and tune in to that energy, that moment, that excitement within. So it can, and using the terms of the group, pass that sparkle on. In other words, ignite the fire in other people, ignite the fire of learning. So it's incredibly important that we understand, even though we're all on the same page, it's not page 43 in the history book that is going to bring the sparkle. You're the one. You're the one. And think about your favorite teacher. Why was that person your favorite teacher? Chances are, if we wrote down an answer right now, it might be because they taught me to love science, love technology, love English, love poetry, because that teacher successfully passed that spark on to the student. So friends, find your spark, find the best way to light that torch of learning within your classroom, within all of our constraints, and pass that spark on.
Thank you, Christine. And Anna, let's dig in a little bit deeper because I know that you visit classrooms and you visit teachers in their, I would always say, their natural habitat. How do you see that sparkle reflected in your students' behavior when you are visiting their classrooms as being a teacher educator?
Thank you, Eleanor, for allowing me to share more sparkling moments with my students. Sparkle is reflected in both future teachers and their cooperating teachers. My experience have been that they always give their best, even with the many administrative, social, and learning challenges in school and family environments. They fight in a way that they can overcome these for the good of the students. I feel the sparkle when they share with me their experiences of success after putting a lot of effort, creativity, and a process of continuous reflection.
Thank you. I think, Robin, we go over to you because I know that you want to ask Wendy a question.
Right, I did. Sorry, I interrupted you earlier, but I got so excited by the idea that we do come up against the frustration of what we must do in our job and how that collides with what we might want to do. So Wendy, you left a job managing successful services for a school district and became a state director of gifted education. Now, policy work, what says what we have to do, is really slow. And we sometimes don't even know that there's progress. How do you still find ways to sparkle?
Well, Robin, you are correct. Sometimes when you work in policy, it feels as if every time you make 2 steps forward, you take at least 1 step back, and sometimes to the side. So it can be somewhat frustrating. I loved my job before I came to work for the Department of Education. And I want to say just something about that. I loved the work that I did. I was in a K-12 position, and I had the opportunity to see on a daily basis the sparks that I shared with other people, my colleagues, as well as the students. But as you can see from my background, I really am positive that there are sparks all over. There are opportunities to shine wherever you are. And while work in policy, as I said, can be slow, I'm in it for the long game. I'm in it to create systems that really do support students. And I've said it before, and I will say it forever, that we really want students to have all the opportunities they need, all the supports that they need to become the best version of themselves. So when I think about what makes me sparkle, when before it used to be running into my students either before or after school and their families and hearing them talk in a very excited way about what we were doing in school, my shift is looking at ways to sparkle in the policy work. And so I sparkle when I see progress, or when I see that people are beginning to understand why equity matters, why opportunity matters, how to remove barriers, all of those things. In the last few years, I've had several proposals for legislation that have moved forward only to stop at the very last moment. And while it can be frustrating, what I see is still progress. And I take great pride in the work that Minnesotans are doing, but also in work that's going on all across the US and in other countries too. So I look for success. I look for ways to celebrate everything. So in the past year, even though we didn't have new legislation related to gifted education in my state, there were other states that did. And I also know, just in my work, not only at the department, but also with the Association for the Gifted, with NAGC, the National Association for the Gifted, the World Conference or Council on Gifted Education, we are making progress. And I take that very personally, because I think that while, as I said earlier, gifted education can at times feel isolating because there aren't multiple gifted education specialists in most school buildings or in most offices, we are a group of people who support and care about each other. And what happens in one part of the world has a ripple effect. I just hope that we can continue to not only create that ripple effect, but maybe start working on waves, maybe a tsunami of support for gifted education. And for those of us who work in gifted education, it is an extremely important area, and we cannot afford to lose the talent of our students or the talent of our teachers. And so again, when I think about Sparkle, I think about not only ways in which we can retain educators to this field and have them feel really good and understand the significance of their work, but also encourage others to join us, because this is important work. It's not that other work isn't important. It's just that it's left to a small number of us to really move ahead, figure out what it is that not only makes us sparkle, but share that sparkle with others. One thing that we haven't talked about today is the sparkle that I feel and the excitement I feel every time I finish a call with my Sparkle collaborators. I have so enjoyed learning with you and from you. And you may not see it right now, but I'm sparkling just being here with you. So thank you for your question. And thank you again for this opportunity.
Well, Wendy, your sparkling was very, very noticeable. Thank you. We could see literally your eyes sparkling. With a beautiful background behind you, with a world full of sparks. Yes, we go for it. And it brings us to our question to Robin, because Robin, you talked earlier about setting the stage, and basically Wendy was talking about setting a stage worldwide, but now bring it back to home and setting a stage for sparkling professionally. But what about setting the stage for sparkle in your personal life, since authenticity is an essential component? Can you enlighten us?
Well, what's fascinating is we are truly developing a theme here among ourselves, because while you can't fake sparkle, you really can adopt an attitude of possibility. And again, Annemieke, I'm going to go on what you said earlier. Sparkle is contagious. And then, so when I'm around people who are passionate about what they're doing, it rubs off on me. So I seek them out. And I think that's what Wendy was saying, because when I woke up this morning, and know that I'm a lot earlier than the rest of you. I'm still in morning. I woke up with that idea that this was going to be a good day. I was going to be see my sparkle friends. So it sets that stage. It's that idea again. But in these challenging last years, I realize that sometimes we have to delve so deep into finding the sparkle. And I have a mentor who reminds me to give of my light, not of my oil. Because if I go too far into the oil, my light will go out. So when she first said that to me, I was flummoxed. What happens? Do I conserve that oil? No, she said. No, you figure out how to replenish it. And that's one of the keys here, is that in setting the stage, we begin to know ourselves and what are the things, even tiny things, that help us sustain the oil, keep it going so that the light continues. What are the activities, even tiny ones, that bring a smile? How do we tap into that feeling of accomplishment, even if it's something that no one else knows that we figured out? Have you ever had that secret, yes, I did it, just because you did something that was, you really wouldn't report to anyone else, but you managed to accomplish it? Those are the things that we remember and that can help us sustain our sparkle.
Thank you. And that brings us to our final question, Anouk. Robin and Wendy already talked about how joining this group lights their fire. You participate in this group as well, in the Educational Insight Group. What does make the sparkle for you? What makes you sparkle in doing so?
Yes, well, thank you, Eleanor, and thank you for the opportunity to share that. Well, I think when having heard all of this, people can imagine that participating in the Educational Insight Group makes me sparkle, and a Sparkle project in particular. I think there are two sparkling elements, and the first one is connection. The Educational Insight Group is a group of people who all work in the field of gifted education. And well, maybe We may even call it that they are passionate about gifted learners. And this connects us as a group. And it makes that we share specific interests, and it makes that we are so curious to hear from one another what's going on in their field, in their area and continents. And during the past few years, not only a connection has been established in, well, let's mention a professional way, but all members are truly interested in one another as professional or specialist, but also as a person. And this true interest and understanding makes this group and this project very special for me. And from this connection and true interest, we share our knowledge and inspire each other. And in this way, we can all broaden our horizons and learn from one another. And we hope to share that with all of you and inspire you and make all of you sparkle for yourself. Thank you.
Thank you, Anouk. And that is a beautiful wish for all of us. I would like to thank all of you for your openness, because hearing you talk about what Sparkle means for you and how you ensure that you infuse your day with Sparkle, that was really wonderful. It made me sparkle. It was fun to do. It was joyous, and it made me happy. And talking about happiness and sparkling, interesting, those who have already participated in our research project, they have reported that reflecting on their daily practice just by answering the questionnaire already increased the sparkle they felt. And it was really interesting reading their comments, because some of them reported that it reminded them of their original passion they had for the profession. In other words, participating in the research for them was already an intervention. So thank you.
And having watched us talk through this session, we're hoping that now you might want to share your experiences with us as well. We would love to hear what makes you sparkle in your job in education. So please know that we encourage you to join our research project at www.SparkleProject.net. Fill in the questionnaire. It will only take about 15 minutes of your time, and your responses will contribute greatly to our understanding of the ways we can help and support teachers and build the sparkle that keeps the fire going in our most necessary profession. Thank you.